Hi there, friends. My name's Eli, and I'm one of the co-hosts of TechSoup Connect Canada. This is our annual Tech Trends event where we get to look at the ideas, the tools, the approaches that we think you should be exploring in the coming year. This is going to be a fast-paced event. We've got 19 people, each of which are going to give a 5-minute lightning talk. And with that, let me dive right into this. So, starting up is Jason Shim, who's going to talk a little bit about super prompts.
And here we are, super prompts and more. And I'm going to kick it off with a little bit about where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the Canadian Centre for Nonprofit Digital Resilience, or CINDR, and we are about helping nonprofits use tech and data effectively. And so jumping straight into the models here, overview models. Many of you may be already using one and familiar with them. So there's ChatGPT, OpenAI, Copilot by Microsoft, Gemini by Google, and Cloud by Anthropic. Now, there are numerous models that are available. However, one of the most frequent questions that I receive is around how to deal with poor quality outputs from a language model. Many people may be using the default model that is presented to them. And so if you are using the default model or you may not be aware that you are, and you're just finding that you're getting not great quality results, you may need to dive into the drop-down menu and select thinking or pro models in order to get better results. And on the screen here, on the far left, there's the ChatGPT 5.2. And by default, you're always going to get presented with auto. If you want better quality results, select the dropdown and take it to at least thinking model or pro if you have it available. For Gemini, you would select the dropdown next to the input box and select thinking or pro as well. And if you're using Copilot, that's on the far right. Select the dropdown, usually on the top right of the Copilot menu, and have it think deeper. And you'll find that you'll get better, more comprehensive results. The next thing that I'd like to share with you is a bit about prompt engineering. Traditional prompt engineering will typically advise you to state you are an expert at X, and this will give you a decent response. However, if you adopt meta prompt engineering, this is a two-step technique which will prompt the AI to help you to get better results. And you would start off with, you are an AI expert, and that will invoke expertise in the AI prompt generation and layer on specific expertise in domain-specific areas. So you would follow that with, you are also an expert in X. Help me craft a super prompt to do Y. And why that's important is that the key word is super prompt, and that's a particular term that's used to describe extended prompts. And so I'm going to give you a concrete example of how to put this into action. So let's say this prompt here, you are an AI expert. You are also an expert nonprofit CFO and financial planning and analysis partner. Help me craft a super prompt to perform a meticulous end-to-end financial review of a nonprofit forecast for a charity. So what you would do is that you would input that, press enter, and then you would get a result. And then you would actually copy and paste that output into a new chat. And so here's a sample output of what you would get. And so this is just a partial output. The actual one is about 6 pages long. This is not the output itself. This is the meta prompt that you would use in a separate conversation. So you see the role and mode here is you're a senior AI financial analyst, nonprofit CFO, FP&A partner, specialize in Canadian registered charities, operate like a rigorous review team, and so on and so forth. And it'll lay out the objectives. And in this particular example, it also outlines the deliverables as well. So it often can get very detailed, and it gives you an opportunity to fine tune it with your own expertise as well with regards to what you may be looking for. So this works across a variety of roles and functions, and just make sure that you are carefully scrutinizing the inputs as well as the outputs for this, and you can fine tune it, bringing your own expertise into this as well. The other thing that I'd like to share with everyone is the Nonprofit AI Impact Hub. So this was released by CINDR back in the fall, and that's ai.cindr.ca. I'll drop the link in the chat after I finish my portion here. And what this is a learning and discovery platform, and it provides curated resources for nonprofit professionals to learn more about AI. And so there's also filters that you can filter by skill, roles, and cost. And so this is a resource that is helpful for AI learning that you can also direct staff to and learn for yourself. With that, I'm going to wrap it up, and feel free to stay in touch.
Next up, we've got Kelsey from Giving Tuesday, who's going to be talking about the $52 billion opportunity you may be missing out on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey Kramer. I'm the Director of Partnerships at the Giving Tuesday Data Commons. We work to understand how, why, when, and what motivates giving in all of its forms. We disseminate that research, and we build the infrastructure to make that research possible. I want to caveat that some of the data that I'm sharing with you today is primarily from the US, but I think the strategic opportunities and the patterns are relevant for Canadian organizations too. So you might be familiar with this stat. Charitable giving in the US has held steady at around 2% of GDP for decades. But our recent analysis reveals something encouraging. There is an estimated $52 billion in untapped generosity that nonprofits could unlock, not by adding new tools, but by optimizing what's already working in other sectors and other countries. So what we're seeing in our data, and you might be experiencing with your own donors, is this pattern. Total dollars holding steady or even growing while your while your donor counts drop. So you might see this up as a win. Average gift size is up, but we're building a model that's increasingly fragile, dependent on fewer donors giving more. And that doesn't set us up for long-term sustainability. So what our data also shows is that we do not believe this is a scarcity problem. We believe it's an optimization opportunity, that generosity exists. People want to give. We're just not always engaging them in ways that match how they're already showing up in other parts of their lives as subscribers, as repeat customers, and members of communities. So we analyze years of data from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, which is a project that we run, alongside consumer behavior patterns and international giving trends. And we wanted to understand this question: what would happen if nonprofits applied strategies that already work in subscription businesses, in retail, and in other countries with different giving patterns? And we found these 3 concrete opportunities worth $52 billion annually. That seems like a huge number. These numbers might seem abstract, but they aren't moonshot. These are patterns that we are seeing already work. So what this looks like is deseasonalizing giving. So what you see here on the screen, this chart shows the difference between nonprofit giving patterns and retail spending throughout the year. And you can see 2 lines. The red is data from the US Census Bureau on retail spending, and the blue is fundraising dollars. They are remarkably similar. I was shocked when I first saw this. Aside from one part of the year, the summer. If charitable giving followed similar patterns where donors are engaged as actively as consumers, nonprofits would see a dramatic rise in participation and retention in roughly $23 billion annually. So you probably already have the infrastructure to do this. You have a CRM, an email platform, segmentation tools. The opportunity, I think, is really in deployment. And this might be funny coming from me working at Giving Tuesday, but we really believe in this. The second is recurring. So recurring donors are foundational to sustainability. They give more over time, they stay longer, are predictable revenue. You likely already know this. But what the data shows us is while overall recurring donor percentages have grown, we're still only acquiring about 2% of new donors as recurring givers. And this matters because 1 year after acquisition, about 90% of recurring donors are still with you, compared to 20% of non-recurring donors. So if we shift our acquisition strategy, increasing the share of new donors, by just 5 percentage points, we believe roughly $10 billion of annual giving across the sector is possible. If you push that to 10 percentage points, those are rates we already see in countries like Norway and Spain. That's about $20 billion. And the third is our untapped audiences. So people with capacity and willingness to give who have not been invited to give yet. Younger donors, more diverse communities, people outside of your traditional list. Our data shows about 10% of people never solicited would give if they were asked. And that's about a $19 to $46 billion potential. So let me recap for you. Here is what we believe you can do in 2026 to get to this $52 billion potential. Test your donation pages. So make recurring as the default option, run it for 90 days, measure the difference. 2, you can map your engagement calendar. So identify the gaps outside of Q4 and build in meaningful touch points per quarter that aren't asked. And the third is audit your data. So find one audience segment that you haven't actively engaged and test a campaign designed specifically for them. The full research and methodology is at Giving Tuesday. I have it up on the screen. I'll pop it in the chat. We believe that the opportunity is real. You already have more than you think you might need. It's just about learning, experimenting, and optimizing.
Next up, we've got Tasha from the nonprofit Hive, who's going to talk about why community is the next hot new technology.
I'm Tasha. I started a community just over 2 years ago called the Nonprofit Hive. Maybe some of you here are members, but we've grown from a very small grassroots talking about us on LinkedIn and about how important community is to over 3,000 members across 85 countries, 10,000 plus one-to-one conversations. And what I learned doing this and starting this was that one-to-one is in high demand in this sector, and it's something we don't do very often in nonprofit. And we accidentally stumbled into the idea that not necessarily building technology that is meant for connection and community within the sector, and we built it for ourselves. It's now become something that we're licensing to other people, which is cool. But my kind of thought bomb idea, and what I'm going to say, is that more tools don't really create connection. They just created noise in this sector. And I think most of us feel like the onslaught is everywhere. We're hearing so much. It's probably getting worse out there in the world right now. And how do we go for depth? How do we get tighter in our conversations? So the one big thing I noticed, 2025, tool explosion. It is everywhere. There are so many cool tools. People are probably going to talk about some of them today for donor platforms, comms, CRMs, automations. They're genuinely fantastic tools compared to what I was working with years ago in this sector. But for small nonprofits, that often just looks like more logins, more channels, more things to do. And it's increasing teams feeling overwhelmed. They're not sure what they should be using. How does it connect to each other? This one source of truth idea that has been pitched at us is clearly not working. And the burnout is increasing across the sector. We hear about it all the time, and people are disengaging actually often from the technologies. I think there's a shift that needs to happen in the sector. I've been working at this with my community for the past couple of years, but this old way of looking at communities as feeds, channels, and broadcasts, it's great for loud voices like myself. I will be totally transparent to that because loud voices dominate, and it's easy if you are someone who has a loud voice. But I like to think that the new way is going to be structured around this idea of really equitable conversations where everyone gets a chance to speak, whether that's within your org, whether that's at a much higher level across a network, membership organization, maybe even across this sector. And with higher engagement in this sector, in people feeling less overwhelmed and burnt out, what could we do if that was the way forward? So we've been working on a very lightweight matching tool that we created for ourselves. I'm going to just flip over quick, and I won't be able to get into this very much because we've only got a few minutes. We started to license this out to other organizations, but it looks so simple that it's almost ridiculous. So what we started with was a very simple custom sign-up page. What matters? Why are you connecting community in the first place? It looks like matching members by certain ideas, reasons why you want to put them together in the first place. We automated all the scheduling. We focused in on meaningful one-to-one conversations. We brought in community sponsors across the sector to help steward this. And we really focused in on actual insights that move the needle for our community and are now helping to move the needle for others. And I'll flip back over to this quick because whether you're using tools or not, ultimately, we need to, in this sector, be designing for trust, whether that is at a high level within a donor network or whether this is just within your network. Is the tech. I love tech. I use tech all the time, but it's the trust factor that I worry about in this sector. So that's a big thing for me. I think depth over volume, some of what Kelsey is saying here with donor retention and that idea that let's go deeper and what difference would that make if we grab people's hearts more fully, and connection outperforms complexity in this sector especially. And so those are my rallying cries. And there are lots of ways to do this, whether this is what I built or someone else is building, go for it. If you're ready to build a more connected community, here's some of our information. Or if you're just looking for community for yourself, we have a free community. The Nonprofit Hive is the place to go, and we would love to have some of you there.
Up next, we've got Jessica Rayne from the Give One Foundation Canada, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the common issues you have with your donation page and some quick fixes.
So my name is Jessica. I'm with GiveWise as the Generosity Growth and Partnerships Lead. And in my role, I focus on supporting charities. So I have many conversations with charities about how to unlock larger gifts and complex assets. And so today, I really want to focus on your donation page and how it's costing you money and reveal to you what that fix is, that 5-minute fix. So most nonprofit donation pages are not built for generosity. So many donation pages, as you probably see, are designed for one type of donor. And those are donors that are giving from their wallets instead of actually giving from their wealth. They are built for someone giving credit card and cash and maybe check, e-transfers and bank transfers. But when your page only provides these options, you quietly lose your largest, most strategic gifts. And things are changing, right? So donors are really different from they were before. They hold wealth in donor-advised funds, securities, businesses, other assets. New data has just showed that, I think it was from Wealth Professional Statistics Canada data, shared that 95%, so it's actually 95% of Canadian wealth is held in assets and not cash now. Yet many charities still only communicate 2 options for donations, which is the credit card or the cash. When your page doesn't actually acknowledge how donors actually give today, they don't give more, they actually give less, or they go elsewhere, right? So you really want to create a frictionless environment and a good online donor experience. And charities, many charities are missing numerous opportunities to receive these types of contributions if they do not effectively communicate with donors that they can accept these gifts. And also if their teams are not prepared to receive these gifts or understand these gifts. So what we have built is a solution for this, a solution to the problem or a solution to the shift. With more generosity coming from wealth, not income, you need a donation tool and an infrastructure to support seamless giving for your donors and easy receiving for your team. So not adding more to your team. Donors want clarity, they want transparency, and they want to give without friction. And organizations who can understand this are making it easier for donors to give in the way that they prefer. So DAFs, non-cash gifts, now represent one of the fastest growing sources of charitable capital in Canada. So if this option is not on your page, then there's definitely a big miss. So that takes us to the website experience matters. So let's go here. I'm going to take you to the website now and give you just a few solutions. So first and foremost, for your donation page to really simply unlock some gifts is really recognizing where your donate button is. So top right hand. Now, when you click on the donate page button, it shouldn't go directly to a credit card donation form. We see that often. What you want to do is you want it to go to a ways to give page or a place where it's actually explicitly sharing all the ways that you can give through the website or that your charity accepts gifts. So here's one way of doing it. Or here's another version that folks like where you're explicitly saying that. Now, if you have credit card and you love the process that you're doing in credit card, no problem. And if you already have a process that works for e-transfer, no problem. But if you need support, a structure or a system that can help you actually do the non-cash gifts, like stocks, crypto, donor advised funds, this is where GiveWise, GiveGenius program can help. So once your donor opens up that, clicks on that button, now they have all the options. They can give through credit card, bank transfer, securities, staff transfer, e-transfer, check, cryptocurrency. They can even discuss the plan of future gift right from your website. So you open that door. And for the charity view now, for your charity to make it easy for you, you get to see the live donations come through right here. All that to say, we are done here. Every gift, every way, so one place. So I would tell you to at least go assess your donation page today. Ask one question, does this page reflect how donors are actually giving today? Thank you so much.
Up next, we've got Anthony Wilson, who's going to talk about how we manage and build effective boards for our organizations.
I'm here to talk about something that doesn't always get that much attention, which is a problem that we have all experienced. Board meetings that don't work. We've all sat through a board meeting where the same two people dominated the conversation or left a meeting unsure about what was actually decided. Today, I'll show you why current tools aren't solving this problem, but what will. Here's why board effectiveness matters. Organizations with positive board dynamics are 17% more likely to grow fundraising revenue year over year, 59% more likely to financially outperform peers, and 7% more likely to meet annual fundraising goals. Conversely, organizations with negative board dynamics are 57% more likely to underperform peers financially. Strong governance means less risk, making your organization more attractive to banks, lenders, and other financial institutions. Bottom line, good boards mean better financials. A survey published by Harvard Law School found that only 29% of executives rate their board's performance as good or excellent. This is less than a third. Even more striking, 60% don't trust their boards to effectively self-assess their own performance. Why? The symptoms are familiar. Passive participation. There's only a few voices in the meetings. Unclear outcomes. People leave not knowing what was decided. Weak connections. Board meetings don't get board members to get to know each other. And there's no objective data about what's going wrong. This is a solvable problem, but with the tools most organizations are currently using, it goes unaddressed. Traditional board management tools try to address this gap by improving agenda distribution, storing minutes, and managing calendars. They're document management systems. But most members still don't read the agenda or look at the minutes, no matter how soon you get it to them after or before the meeting. It's not that they don't care. They joined your board because they care about the mission of the organization. They're bored by the meeting. Zito is different. It's not a portal. It's a set of quick exercises before and after the meetings that activate your board and make the meetings fun and focused. The first exercise is get focused, done before the meeting even starts. This doesn't replace your agenda, but it makes getting ready for the meeting more engaging. Members vote for what topics they want to discuss, democratizing the agenda. They share fun facts about each other, building real connections, and it identifies skills and knowledge the group is missing. Members are scored based on how prepared they are for the meeting and how well they know each other. In addition, now you know what everyone actually wants to discuss when the meeting starts. The second exercise is Rate My Meeting, which starts when the meeting ends. Questions include the meeting's most significant outcome, the items that were resolved, and what were the most valuable contributions. Members are scored based on how aligned they are with the group and the quality of member participation, not the quantity of their participation. You know, everybody's had somebody who's run over a meeting. You can't fix what you don't measure. This gives you objective data. No more, I think this meeting went well. Now you'll know with some specific data. Zito requires little to no staff support. You don't need to upload any agendas or questions. The board chair can launch and run the exercises without really any assistance. And most importantly, boards love this type of feedback. It keeps them engaged. Zito is more accessible than other board tools and traditional group facilitation at $9.99 per month. If you want to learn more, please email me, or you can visit it yourself at www.zito.com. And thank you for your time.
Next up, we've got Laurie from Octria, who is going to talk a little bit about this hot idea, the dessert dash.
I know you guys are talking about donations and recurring donations. I'm going to talk about the fun of having an event. You're talking about getting together, having your community at an event, at a gala, at a golf tournament, at an activity is fun. And there's a lot of ways to monetize that while you're in the room. And I thought I would go off the board a little bit and talk about the dessert dash, because who doesn't like chocolate cake? So just a little bit about me and Octria. Octria has been around since 2011. Organizations have done the hard work. They raised over 1.25 B with $1 billion using the Octria platform. And there's two purposes for an event fundraising program. It is to raise money and to raise awareness for your organization. And those come together at an event, whether it be a gala, a golf tournament, an online auction, etc. All of those are fun because people are engaging together. You're raising money and you're raising awareness. So a gala and event fundraisers take a lot of time. They take a lot of money. However, you can make a lot of money at these also. 2 things I wanted to point out. During your connection area, you want to maximize the time and the revenue with raffles, your silent auctions, your wine walls. There's a lot of revenue boosters in there. And then during the seated portion of the event, you want to maximize your revenue with a paddle raise, and a fan favorite is the dessert dash. Some people just love a game. The gamification within an event does really well. You should have raffles at multiple price points. You can have a golden raffle ticket. You can have ones that if it sells out, you can key them up again. So you've got this energy in the room. Some people love to drink wine. Have a wine wall at your auction, but make it scarce. There's only 100 bottles here. First 100 people, grab it. But I want to talk about what I love, the sweetness of a dessert dash. Regularly, organizations raise thousands and thousands of dollars for dessert dashes, some as high as $25,000. What is a dessert dash? A dessert dash is part of your event fundraiser. You have your desserts on display. During the connection hour, you have it on display in the room where people are coming down to sit down, and you've got all these gorgeous desserts. However, in order for your table to be the first one that gets to go and grab one, they need to make a donation as a group. So in order to facilitate that, Octria makes that easy. You'll put a piece of paper down on the middle of the table, and people can jot down collectively amongst that table how much they want to bid or donate towards that dessert. The table with the highest number gets called out, and they get to run for the very first dessert. Some of these organizations are evil, and if they have 20 tables, they have 19 desserts, and one table doesn't even get dessert. I don't think I could do that. I'm not that mean. However, with the platform, and you can do this anywhere, you just need a piece of paper in the middle of the table. If you're using something like Octria, you can put a QR code in the middle of the table. People can scan it and they can donate. And this is what that looks like. You can see this lovely woman running with her desserts. You can see the people on the right. They are seeking out what dessert that they want to perhaps bid on, donate on. It is a whole lot of fun, and it brings a lot of sweet joy to your event fundraiser. And you're activating these people. Now you can go back, talk to them. Do they want to be regular donors? Do they want to be monthly donors? And you can engage them even further. I brought along a couple goodies if you want to scan this. This goes to the free resources on the Octria platform. There's all sorts of checklists, time lists, forms, and letters. Feel free to join us for any time for some additional information on Octria.
Up next, we've got Stephen, who's going to give us a bit of a warning to say, before we go all in on AI, let's think through our fundamentals first.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephen, based in Toronto. I help mission-driven organizations harness tech and data to work smarter, collaborate better, and drive lasting change. I also love baseball. So you know what I'm excited about? We're just 30 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting, marking the start of baseball's spring training. Now, if you've watched baseball in the last few years, you've probably heard about a lot of really cool new technology and advanced analytics. But when teams arrive in Florida and Arizona next month, they'll start first with the fundamentals. Batters will work on timing and hand-eye coordination. Fielders will take thousands of routine ground balls, skills they practiced since they were kids. Everyone will run drills we all remember from gym class to build strength and stamina. Yes, teams use incredible new technology and advanced analytics, but none of that matters without the fundamentals. So why am I talking about baseball today? Because the same principle applies to nonprofit work. Spring training isn't glamorous. It's repetition, discipline, and small improvements that compound over time, building muscle memory so the basics become automatic. And that's what makes the advanced analytics, strategy, and technology useful later. AI is the big story in 2026. And nonprofits that benefit most will be the ones that consistently practice their fundamentals. Here's why. AI isn't just your preferred LLM. Over the past year, many of the platforms nonprofits already rely on, CRMs, donor systems, grants management tools, they've all started layering AI directly into their core functionality. These tools are already summarizing data, routing tasks, and surfacing insights. This trend will accelerate in 2026, and we'll start to see more agentic AI, systems that don't just recommend actions, but follow defined processes and act on our behalf. This means the most powerful AI use cases won't happen in a chat window. They'll happen quietly, behind the scenes, inside the systems you're already using every day. Which leads to the real question we should be asking. Not what can we do with AI, but what are we preparing AI to work with? Because AI outputs are only as good as their inputs. And our core data is increasingly the input to embedded AI. The fundamentals that matter most for AI performance are not new or flashy. They're the same pillars we've always talked about: people, process, and technology. For example, keeping relationship and program data up to date through consistent use of systems, following well-defined shared processes and conventions, not everyone's personal workaround, regularly cleaning and maintaining core data so it's accurate and reliable. The good news is, none of this requires a massive digital transformation. Think of it as spring training. So here are 3 things you can do in the next 30 days before spring training starts to get a quick win under your belt. First, pick one core workflow and document it end to end. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can open a Word document, list the steps, clarify who does what, when, and where. Second, you can identify one high impact segment of contacts in your CRM, run a report, and enlist the help of your team. Take a Friday afternoon, clean it up. You don't need to try to boil the ocean. Just pick one segment that matters. Third, choose 2 or 3 key fields in a core system and standardize how data is entered. Retrain your team on those standards and implement validation rules to make it easy to do the right thing every time. Nonprofits that want to benefit from AI need to return to the fundamentals. That's clean processes, clean data, and consistent practice. Just like baseball players who master the basics before stepping into the analytics lab, nonprofits need strong operational foundations for AI to truly deliver value. Strengthen your fundamentals now, and AI becomes easier to adopt, far less risky, and dramatically more powerful. In 2026, the real competitive advantage won't be AI. It will be the fundamentals underneath it.
Next up, we've got David Pisarek from Wow Digital, who's going to remind us that the user really matters.
Here we go. Thank you so much for joining. Quick 5-minute presentation. That's all I'm given. I'm going to try really hard to jam it all in for you here. But if anybody wants to connect, my contact details are going to be on the slides coming up. So I'm going to talk about why your website and marketing might look really great, but are they actually working for your supporters, or are they just quietly pushing them away? And I love that we've already heard a little bit of this from some of the other presenters today. So I'm super psyched that this is on top of everybody's mind. So I'm going to start with a quick little scenario here. Somebody visits your website. They care about your cause. They're ready to help. They scroll, they hesitate. Something might feel a little bit unclear, too slow, maybe too many clicks. And they think, I'm going to come back later. The reality is that they never do. This quiet moment is actually happening on nonprofit websites every single day, and most organizations never even see it. Quick intro. Hi, I'm David. I'm the CEO and founder of Wow Digital. I'm a mentor and coach to digital agencies and organizations. As well, I'm a podcast host of the Nonprofit Digital Success Podcast. Don't look at it now, but definitely go and subscribe. A little promo piece there. But why should you even listen to me? I've worked for over 25 years in nonprofits and with my agency. We're about 10 years old coming up in a few months. My goal is to help 5,000 organizations improve the lives of 100 million people through the use of technology. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help give you some insight, give you something you can take away, talk with your peers, talk to people at other organizations. And I work where intention meets friction. But before I get into this, if anybody has paper, a Post-it note, wants to just make a mental note, I have 2 questions that I'm going to ask you. So just take a note of where you're at. So thinking about this, how happy are you with your brand, how your brand connects emotionally with your audience? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, oh my God, epic. 1 is super major fail. All right, so just take a mental note of that. Second question I have is, how happy are you with how your website actually brings in donations for your organization? Same thing, scale of 1 to 10. All right, so here's the uncomfortable truth. A website can look great and still fail. It might feel on brand, it might get internal praise, but if supporters feel confused, slowed down, or uncertain, then the website isn't doing its job. Organizations often come across as performative or insincere when this happens, and supporters can actually feel it right away. For many supporters, your website is the very first interaction that they have with your organization. Before an event, before an email, before a conversation, that first experience answers silent questions immediately. Can I trust you? Do you feel credible? Is this going to be easy or frustrating? If that first handshake feels awkward, trust will drop instantly. For nonprofits, purpose is already there, and that's amazing. But if the experience doesn't reflect it, supporters feel the disconnect. A confusing website undermines even the strongest mission. Users don't want more information. They don't want clever navigation. They just want clarity. They want to understand what you do quickly, feel confident to take action without any kind of friction. Every extra decision you force them to make is another chance to lose them. So what does it mean? It means, can somebody understand your mission in under 5 seconds? Can they find the donate button without thinking? Can they complete a donation on your website without giving you their date of birth, their blood type, their CV, all this kind of stuff? And I'm saying that kind of jokingly, but last week I was on a prospect's website and there were, I think, 18 fields that you had to fill out to make a donation, right? Does the site guide them instead of making them work to find what they're looking for? When the experience feels easy and intuitive, trust goes up automatically. This doesn't require a massive redesign. You just have to make small shifts that make a real difference, right? Make the donate button easy to find, always. Shorten donation forms to only what's essential, and make sure pages load fast, especially on mobile. I know it's not exciting, but they're powerful because they will remove friction. Supporters don't give because your website is clever. They give because they feel safe and confident. In fact, 88% say that authenticity is important when deciding what brands they like. And this is where things get urgent. Over the next 10 to 15 years, one of the largest wealth transfers in history is happening as baby boomers pass wealth to younger generations. Millennials and Gen Z don't engage in the same way, right? 83% of millennials and 76% of Gen Z expect organizations to take a stand on issues that matter to them. If your digital experience doesn't meet their expectations, they're not going to trust you later. So if your site feels outdated, fix it. User experience is how you can do that. They want to feel aligned, and your website isn't for you. It's not an internal thing. I do have a little giveaway. So if you scan this, you fill this out, you can win a $3,800 prize pack, and you can nominate another nonprofit to win a package from us as well. Thank you so much.
Next, we've got Lawal from Technology Helps, who's going to talk a little bit about the emerging situation with cybercrime and cybersecurity.
Good afternoon. My name is Lawal, CTO at Technology Helps. Technology Helps is an organization dedicated to ending technology poverty in the social purpose sector by providing comprehensive IT support and cybersecurity to the sector. And today, I'm here to discuss with you why relying only on your MSP is not a cybersecurity strategy in 2026. So who really owns cybersecurity? Nonprofits are trusted, mission-driven, and often more data-rich than they realize. They hold sensitive information about donors, clients, staffs, and the communities they serve. That trust makes nonprofit attractive target for attackers and bad actors because the trust comes with access to sensitive data, and those data are often guided with very little barrier. MSP, on the other hand, they keep your system running, your users supported, and your tools managed. But MSP are designed for operations, not organization risk ownership. So many nonprofits believe that our MSP handles cybersecurity, we are too small to be targeted, or we use Microsoft and Google so we're secure. The truth is, security failure often occurs because no one owns the risk, not because the tools are missing. And when accountability is unclear, the responsibility gets assumed, and there go your gaps, which go unnoticed until an incident occurs. So let's talk about how cybersecurity actually works. Cyber is not an IT task. It's a business responsibility, and it answers questions such as, what data do you have? Who have access to it? And what will happen if the data is stolen or locked? And we'll also make decisions during an incident. Cybersecurity also sits in the intersection of people, process, and technology. Technology includes the tools and software and systems which your MSP are well positioned to manage for you. But the people and process part are more about your behaviors, decision-making, accountability, and this cannot be outsourced. Nonprofit must own the people and the process part, because when these roles are clear, cybersecurity becomes effective, sustainable, and aligned with your overall organization mission. So what must you do in 2026? The first thing is own cybersecurity risk. You need to treat cybersecurity like financial or legal risk and assign clear responsibility and accountability at the leadership level. You also need to know your data. By understanding your data, by building a data asset inventory, you'll be able to identify what data you collect, where the data live, will decide what truly needs protection. You also need to define your incident response before an incident occurs. You need to use your MSP as partner and not shield. And you need to establish a cybersecurity program. This is a very crucial one because we know it works, as many of our clients are kept safe by doing this. The cybersecurity program should include things like your vulnerability management, backup and disaster recovery, your training and phishing exercise, your incident response and tabletop exercise, dark web scan, your policy bookshelves. So these are all important elements that you need to have in place to ensure you have a comprehensive cybersecurity. So what this means for you as a nonprofit, number one, you have to own your risk. MSP matters a lot, but they don't own your cybersecurity risk. So you need to ensure that you own all your risks. You need to have something called a risk register so that you know what are the tools you have and what are the associated risks. You need to also treat cybersecurity as a business responsibility. You need to know and protect the data that matters most to you. You need to plan incidents before they happen. And you need to ensure that your people are your first line of defense. So this is the cybersecurity awareness program. It's not something you do as a one-time thing. It's something that we recommend that you structure in a way that is recurring. So I would like to say this is a TechSoup event, and I'm sure a lot of people are here to get some discounts or to see what are the available discounts and tools. I just want to remind you that ACAs don't offer nonprofit discounts. They don't care about your mission. They don't care about your budget. And they don't even care about your good intention. That's why you must own your cybersecurity. You must ensure it's properly set up to protect the mission, the trust, and the people you serve.
Up next, we've got Lars from Green Rope, who's going to be talking about CRM tools for hyper-personalization and decision-making.
I've been in CRM for about 26, 27 years. I wrote CRM for Dummies. So I come from the perspective of using CRM to be effective for nonprofits. So we're going to talk about the problem. I'm going to throw 3 solutions at you that'll help you. And then we'll talk about next steps on how you can take direct action. So the problem, of course, we all know that nonprofits suffer from having limited resources. It's one of the drawbacks of doing it, because when you're mission focused, you're not driving towards revenue. Even though fundraising is an important part of what you do, that's not the primary objective of what you're trying to do. So what I want to talk to you about is how we can use AI in a secure way and integrate it with your CRM and the way you're doing business in a way that helps you scale your nonprofit and bring in more revenue for you. The first and most important thing is the advent of hyperpersonalization. So hyperpersonalization is a sort of what they always called the marketing holy grail, the ability to send messages to people that are one-to-one, exactly what you need to send to that person. So we've done this on our own. We've hyper-personalized this on our own. Every time you think to yourself, I want to design an email or a message that I want to send to someone, I'm going to ask my AI to tell me what to write, and I'm going to copy and paste that into a message. That's great when you've got lots and lots of time and you're not busy. The reality is, if you want to leverage AI to help you effectively communicate with a lot of people, you use what's called hyperpersonalization. What that does is it allows you to embed content within a message, whether that's on your website, on landing pages and surveys, whether you're using event confirmations or you've got an embedded learning management system. All of that is personalized for the content, for the actual contact you're sending that to. And so if you're bored, you can go to the greenrope.com website. We have a page there on AI, and you can see what it does for you, especially when combined with services that do data appending, where you can take someone's email address and add in things like how much revenue they are, where they live, where they work. You can do research on their companies and feed all that into the hyper-personalization engine. The next is using AI to do decision making. And so this allows you to do things like screening. Now, the biggest, most obvious application for this is when you've got a company that's filtering resumes based on what they're looking for in a resume. You can use that same technology in your CRM if you're doing any kind of pre-screening. So think about what you could possibly use AI to help you put people into various different buckets. So maybe someone is going to be a volunteer for a program. Based on what you know about that person, you can use the AI to say this person would be best placed here. The last one I'm going to share with you is CRM usage assessment. So these are tools that you can embed inside your CRM that allows you to look at what people are doing inside your CRM. So a lot of us in a management role have people working for us that we want to make sure that they are actually using the CRM as we want them to. That kind of compliance is sometimes difficult for people. And in a distributed system where you've got people that may or may not be doing what you want them to do in the CRM, having some way to analyze the way they're using your CRM is going to be a very valuable thing from a management perspective. Of course, tied to all of this is getting the right CRM in place. That means if you're not sure about your CRM, consider changing it. I know that's a big lift sometimes, but sometimes the earlier you do that, the easier it becomes. And of course, as you do that, you want to talk to your team and make sure this is all documented. And several of the other speakers have talked to you about this, about the importance of knowing who your target market is, understanding how you sell to that target market, and knowing what data you need to store in order to sell to those people. So ultimately, that comes to defining your requirements. Get a demo, and then as the manager or leader of your NPO, you need to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. You should be able to understand any hidden costs that are waiting for you. And so this is how you can get a hold of me. This is me with my two little puppies there. One of the things, we have a free program for nonprofits. So if you're a registered NPO, 501c3 or the equivalent in Canada, then you can use our platform for free. And all you got to do is go through our training program. It's all automated. And then you can use the CRM at no cost. And that includes email marketing and all the other tools I talked to. These are all available to you, and I'm available. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And thank you again for having me here.
Next up, we've got Aya from Nord Consulting, who's going to talk about how you should stop guessing about your impact with this modern approach to social return on investment.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for all the wonderful presentations. If there's one thing we learned, it's that nonprofits do important work every single day. They improve people's lives in very concrete ways, but putting that impact into words and, more importantly, into numbers is not always straightforward. So today, I want to talk about a simple, modern way to address this challenge using social return on investment. So for a quick introduction, my name is Aya. I'm currently a student at McGill University, and I'm co-president of Nord Consulting, which is a pro bono consulting organization. We work with nonprofits to help them better understand their impact using data and technology. And we've delivered over 40 projects with over 1,400 students engaged the last 10 years that went on to join some of the top consulting firms. So before I get started, I want to share with you a quick story from my first year at Nord Consulting, when we helped secure our client a $300,000 grant in funding. And so this funding was not the result of launching new programs or expanding services. It was simply that the work being done was the same, but the way it was communicated and the way the impact was measured was different. So this brings me to a social return on investment. There's often a disconnect between what nonprofits measure and what funders are looking for. So nonprofits typically track output, such as how many people they serve or how much money they spend. And these metrics are definitely important, but they don't fully capture the impact. Funders, on the other hand, are interested in long-term outcomes. They want to know whether programs improve quality of life and reduce reliance on public services. So an SROI, or social return on investment, is a method that helps organizations answer the following question. For every dollar invested, how much social value is actually created? So an SROI provides a structured way to answer this question. And the process begins by identifying the outcomes of a certain service, then collecting data to measure the extent of those changes and those impacts, and then finally using financial proxies to assign monetary value to these outcomes. And usually this is expressed in terms of cost savings. So now I'm going to be walking you through the application of our SROI tool with a recent client, which was a food bank. So as mentioned, the first step is to gather data to feed the tool. And so we collected responses from over 100 individuals, including both current and past users of the program. And one of the clearest outcomes appeared in food security. So while individuals were actively using the service, the number of meals skipped per week decreased significantly. And we also observed that there were long-term levels of engagement, which basically just proved that the program is meeting a real and an ongoing need. So then, aggregating all of this data and by conducting some very detailed analysis, we were able to come up with a final result, which showed that for every dollar invested, the program was able to generate approximately $5.40 in social value. And as you can see in the following slides, I will save you from the headache, but we went through a lot of mathematical reasoning in order to come up with that number. We also did a lot of assumptions using financial proxies, adjustments, just to make sure that everything is accurate. And so once again, I just want to reiterate that using these tools help quantify impact. It translates the outcomes into value and then communicates the impact more clearly. So that being said, thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to check us out on Instagram and don't hesitate to reach out if ever you want to learn more about what we do. You can reach out to me using my personal email. Thank you very much.
Next up, we've got Charles Buchanan from Technology Helps. AI is starting to cannibalize itself, in his opinion, which is forcing us to go deeper into more human, authentic relationships.
I'm Charles Buchanan. I'm the CEO at Technology Helps. And as my CTO earlier might mention, Technology Helps is an organization that's designed to end technology poverty. So we work with social purpose organizations and community members to use technology to be better and to use it more safely. So that's what we do. That's what we're here for. We've been doing that for the last 10 years or so. So I have no slides, and we're going to talk about AI. And I'm proud to announce that there was zero AI used in the creation of my comments today, and there will be no AI used throughout. But before you go thinking, okay, here's this curmudgeon who's anti-AI, let's get back to the fundamentals. No, I am not a curmudgeon. I'm an active user of AI. I've been doing AI since many people on this thing were before you were born. I was doing AI in the late 80s. And so I would be what you call an AI OG. And I'm very impressed with where the technology has gone in the last 35, 40 years, like from rudimentary AI that we were doing just around expert systems, just using very basic data sets to make predictions, to where we are today, where it's so pervasive in society. It's everywhere. It's being used in all forms by all organizations, and it's just about everywhere. So I'm not here to praise AI, but I'm also here not to bury AI. It's here to stay. However, it has gotten to the state, and these comments might not age well when we're having this conversation in early 2027, but it has gone to the point now where everyone's using AI to the degree that we're becoming almost indistinguishable. I shared a stage recently with the head of recruiting for a very large organization, and he said online recruiting is pretty much dead because every candidate appears perfectly identical. So it's going back to almost street level recruiting. And what that presents to us as social purpose organizations is that, yes, we're noticing now that everyone could produce the same donor package. Everyone could make the same call on Giving Tuesday. We could all use the technology to zone in on everything. We could all scrape the internet and find the most intimate details of the people and send them very targeted messages. So we're all there. However, what that leads to is just an overload, just AI noise. But there's also the other side where people fear the technology, where it's, okay, is it taking our jobs? Because it automates so many tasks that are very fundamental. So what I would say to people is, yes, use AI, embrace it, engage with it. Be curious about it. However, be mindful of the underside, which you've been warned about by many others, is that, yes, there are incomplete data sets. There's bias in the algorithms. There are things that makes it very difficult to trust it, but do verify what you're doing with it. The other thing that I would, and at Technology Helps, the way we use it, we are active users of AI. We're experimenting with it. We're doing things around predicting breaches around cybersecurity in Lawal's group. And we're also looking at different ways in which we could serve people better. But at the core of everything that we do is how is this technology helping us to be better at doing the work we do? So as social purpose organizations, you have to get back to your roots and say, why are we doing the work we do? What's our purpose? Who do we serve? And then where AI plays a very critical role and could be very important is in the how we go about executing on the tasks that we do. So it's how is this making us better at serving the people we serve and doing the work we do? And as we get into that, we should start looking at what's our business process. If something can be automated, does not mean it should be automated. Is it an enhancement or is it a replacement? And yes, there are things that will be replaced, but do not go overboard and say, we have to change everything and do everything differently. It's what is it? Who are we serving? Why are we doing this? Who are we doing it for? How are we doing it? And how can this technology assist or aid in us doing it better or doing it differently? So my guidance on AI about do not get overwhelmed and do not forget why you're here or what you're doing. So when it comes to AI, I just got final message for you is don't lose your shit and don't lose your soul. Thank you.
Strong advice for almost every situation. Up next, we've got Daryl Oberg, who's going to talk about how you can take advantage of the Google Ads grant.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daryl from AYD Internet Marketing. We help nonprofits with thoughtful, strategic advertising and great presentations here so far. I'm going to be presenting an option of how you can expand beyond your organic marketing to help reach more people, get donations, and have more impact. So let me ask you a question. How would you feel if you had $10,000 a month in ad spend to work alongside your current organic marketing? It exists. It's called the Google Ad Grant. It's $10,000 a month to eligible nonprofits that most nonprofits will benefit from. And here's the problem today. Nonprofits, you're emailing, you're posting on social, you're doing a lot of organic effort, and the reach right now isn't enough. There's rules around SEO, there's algorithm changes, there's rules and regulations even on email sign up now. So organic marketing is still very important. However, we also have to look at how can you as a nonprofit reach more people now? That solution is the Google Ads grant. And how this ties into your trend is we're not going to strictly have as a nonprofit, you don't want to rely on organic. So you take the Google Ads grant and moving forward with that, you have $10,000. You'll be able to have a much stronger impact. So how this plays out is, this is an example. There's a nonprofit that were doing social, they had email, they had a great website and SEO. And by turning on the ad grant, they saw almost 3 times the opportunity, which gave them more opportunities for support resources, more donations, and beyond their local geography, which is one of the biggest challenges with organic, with these rules. It allows you with Google Ads to target all of the US.
Yeah.
And moving forward on this is a real impact of it all. This is what I really wanted to get into. We've talked about challenges to this point is why should you be using the Google Ads? There's a point note on here I'm going to bring up is that a $10,000 ad spend credit provided to you at no additional cost. So it's very important. That means it's not no additional budgeting is needed for that. You're getting support from AI through Google, which in turn, you're able to reach more people, have meaningful impact, get more engagement to your website, more donations, and scale the organization with minimal organizational burden, which when we're talking about burnout, which is brought up, is very important. That's the real power of this. How do you access this Google Ad grant? It's actually quite simple. There are a lot of rules that we walk you through, but there's really 5 main steps from getting approved to making sure you keep the grant. The first one is getting verified with Google for nonprofits. That changes right now. It's good stack as far as I understand, unless that's changed. And then after that, you apply for the Google Ad grant. Google provides that to you. They give you access. You set that up. They have the minimum number of ad campaigns you set up. And then you simply need someone to manage it. And you can do that internally, or you can hire someone, and you have $10,000 of ad credits to reach more people. And there's image, video, and search ads now. So very powerful from brand and donations. And the most important part is monthly, you have to review performance and make adjustments as your organization changes. We offer audits if you're already running Google Ads, and we have material to get you started.
Next is Deepa, who's going to talk a little bit about a new approach to using AI with grant writing.
Yeah, hi, everyone. We launched GrantOrb AI 2 years ago at the TechSoup Tech Trends event. And it's been 2 fabulous years of learning from our nonprofits and building this product really with their input. We've had hundreds of organizations from all around the world use it, and they're raising millions in dollars with minimal effort because we are in the age of AI, and our job is now to not really do the real work, but to manage AI. We've all been promoted. And so it's been a good 2 years of educating people about, how to look at AI as well, because a lot of them are still very not comfortable with it. But anyway, so this is GrantOrb AI. This is a agentic system which is designed to help you find grants, write grants, and win grants. So it's been really designed for winning grants. I've worked with lots of nonprofits all across the world, and I've written tons of grants, and I've won lots of grants from Rockefeller, Ford Foundation, Salesforce Foundation. I've worked with Salesforce Foundation too, and I've given grants. So I understand the grant scene really well. And when I encountered AI in 2023, I was like, I've got to build something for the nonprofit space. Yeah, I understand the space, and I understand AI now. And AI is the most amazing technology that we've been given, because with AI and GrantOrb, now something that took 50 hours, your work is done in 5 minutes. So it's a no prompt system. So it's not a chatbot. Like, I know a lot of us are used to chatbots, and chatbots requires a lot of back and forth. It requires a lot of deep understanding of large language models to really retrieve the information that you need. And sometimes we don't end up doing the greatest job with that, and then we're not satisfied with the output. So this is a system which is completely no prompt. It's agentic. It's designed keeping nonprofits in mind, because I understand, being with Salesforce, that how the technology is hard, it never gets adopted. Basically, we've AI powered the entire process from finding grants, which once you set up your profile here and enable an AI agent, it's constantly looking for grants for you and supplying you with that information, like this grant matches your profile. This grant matches your profile. Do you want to apply for it? And once you say yes, it just pops out the template of the grant application form, which is something like this. Like, these are all the different grant application forms of all the upcoming grants. And let's just take this example. Like, this is the TD's environment grant, and say, I'm interested in writing this grant, so let's go about it. And what you see here is basically the grant wizard. You literally dump your thoughts about your project. What is it that you're trying to seek funding for? Unstructured thoughts are totally fine. How we like discuss, this grant is coming up, let's get money for something like setting up a garden in our neighborhood or something like that. So these are just rough thoughts. You don't have to be polished. The AI does the rest of the work. So I'll just give you an example. I'll put this here, which is to basically set up like a hands-on learning space, a school garden for kids. Anyways, so just say create outline. And you don't have to wait while the AI is creating this outline. You can actually leave the system, go take a coffee break, go meet your friend, open another tab and do something else. It's an AI agent that has been activated. It's writing out an outline for you, which will look something like this. So it takes like about a minute for it to produce an outline. And so you can view your outline. But anyways, it's creating an outline in the background. But let's just go back to, here are all your outlines that it creates. So basically you review this outline, you're like, okay, this looks good. This is all in alignment with what we want to do. And once you're happy, just say, I'm ready to generate the grant proposal. That takes another 2 minutes. And basically we build like an agent that validates your outline with what the fund is looking to fund, because funder alignment is the most important thing, no matter how great your project is. If it's not aligned, you will not get the funding. So it'll come up with improvements to improve. And so this is a completely no prompt system. You don't need to deal with prompting any of that. The expertise, grant writing expertise is being baked in, and it's agentic, means you can literally command the AI and leave, shut your laptop and go away and come back to see your work get done.
Up next, I've got Dennis Powers from Cheeky Monkey Media, who's going to talk about how your website needs to be a truly living creature.
Right. Our website traffic has been in decline for the past few years. I saw this in a website RFP, website redesign RFP recently, but honestly, I see statements like this in website redesign RFPs all the time. Statements like that say to me that they watched helplessly for years as their website decayed until leadership finally said, we have to do something. They then spent hundreds of hours when their capacity was already maxed out, applying for grants, finding budget, putting together an RFP, managing the RFP process, and finally managing a website redesign project in the hope that it solves the problem. So what happens in the years from when a website launches until it decays to the point where leadership says we have to do something? Traffic declines, engagement declines, and ultimately conversions decline, impacting donations, volunteerism, community building, and trust with nonprofits and their missions. What opportunities for nonprofits are lost while websites decay and decline? Some of these opportunities could be life-changing. This is an issue for all nonprofits. The organization that put out the RFP that had that statement is one of the largest international nonprofits in the world. Website decay doesn't have to be your nonprofit's challenge. Your nonprofit doesn't have to miss opportunities and pay hidden taxes associated with a decaying website. Making small data-informed updates and improvements can drastically improve the results from your website and the impact it has on your nonprofit. As busy nonprofit professionals, I'm going to show you a tool I use and how you can use it to quickly get the data you need to begin understanding the impact and hidden taxes your nonprofit may be paying as a result of website decay. Google's PageSpeed Insights is easily accessible and easy to use. It measures user experience across 4 web core vitals. It measures your experience, applies it to other users' experience and on the same website, and gives you an average. You just input the URL and it does the rest. You can input other URLs if you want to run comparisons. The first and likely most important metric to understand is website performance or speed, and understanding how much the speed tax is costing your nonprofit. If supporters can't quickly see and use your site, they leave before engaging and there's no hope of conversion. The core web vitals you see here, performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO, are used in Google's search algorithm. So if your website is not performing at 90% across all 4, You may be paying a speed tax, accessibility tax, security tax, and/or an SEO tax. And your web team will likely see this in Google Analytics as a tax on your organic traffic, engagement, and conversion. Google PageSpeed Insights also provides some suggested remedies to the web core vital concerns it highlights. Nonprofit leaders and professionals can then discuss these concerns and remedies with internal and external web teams. Now, it's worth noting that the sample site used for this report that you saw here is our very own TechSoup.ca. Eli was kind enough to let us use TechSoup.ca as a sort of the sacrificial lamb. And you can clearly see from the report that TechSoup is currently paying a hefty speed tax, especially on mobile. Sorry, Eli. Eli did say that they are planning to do a complete redesign and rebuild of the site this year, and it's important to note that they are moving off of an unsupported CMS. And so in this case, it makes sense to do a complete redesign and rebuild of the site. However, if TechSoup.ca was, say, only a 2 or 3-year-old nonprofit website on a good and supported website CMS, it would make total sense and would be a wise investment to strategically repair and improve the site to improve results and avoid a redesign. In closing, I urge nonprofit leaders and professionals to access free, easy-to-use tools like Google PageSpeed Insights to start conversations with your internal and external marketing, communications, and web teams. Find out if a strategy of continuous website improvement can be adopted and implemented in your organization. And don't pay the unnecessary taxes associated with website decay and missed opportunities for growth and increased mission impact. If you'd like to collaborate with me on using these tools and understanding the situation with your website, feel free to book a call with me directly at dennis@tikimonkeymedia.ca, or you can book directly on Tiki Monkey Media's website. Just hit the contact page.
Up next, Mina's going to talk about why they think 2026 is the year that manual grant work dies.
I came up from the nonprofit world. All I did was grant write for about 10 years. I worked for immigrant serving agencies. I worked for education agencies, homelessness, shelters, what have you. So for 10 years, all I did was grant write. And it was a really great opportunity to learn the ins and outs of the nonprofit sector. And long story short is I did a career pivot and now I work with startups. And what I learned from working with technology startups in this whole process is that the reality is we as grant writers are essentially doing Control C, Control V 70, 80% of the time. So essentially when you're fundraising, what's your mission? What's your vision? Control C, Control V over and over again. And so what we want to do in 2026 is move away from the manual labor and then into technology-enabled opportunities here. Now, the current state is that the nonprofit sector, of course, is already adopting AI in one way or another. They're doing it in different ways. But what's really fascinating in all the nonprofits that I've worked with is that when they start to realize that artificial intelligence is only as good as it's an augmented intelligence. It's not an actual artificial intelligence. You've got to be in the driver's seat. And when that clicks, everything starts to move forward. And so when we talk about specifically AI, specifically for grant writing, there are 3 things to note. And this is the big aha moment, hopefully, that everyone remembers for 2026 as a trend, is that the alignment language can be absolutely taken to a different level when you actually have alignment in language, alignment in tone, and alignment in values, and all of which can be done really effectively using different AI tools, different prompts, different things like that to actually bring everything together. And if you think about a Venn diagram, it's that perfect alignment of what you want to do, what the funder wants, and that project that you want. So that Venn diagram is right in the middle once you've actually got really good at that. And that's really extracting who you are, communicating that effectively, and communicating the project. And that's essentially what we did when we created Grants Ease AI. Essentially, it is the database for your grants. We've tried to create it as easily and straightforward as possible for small nonprofits, where you can enter in your organization information by URL, click submit, it extracts that information. Do the same thing with your funder. Who is your actual funder? There's a ton of funders out there, but of course, there's only a few that's right for you. And then up pops your opportunity to actually say, I want a proposal. I want to answer this question effectively. And what it does is essentially extracts key information, including what is the key criteria and eligibility for this particular funder? Sometimes this is written in page 34 of their eligibility and criteria. So you just want to make sure that's all there. And of course, you can leverage AI in order to do that. Thing to note also is that I'm very excited to say that we are running a very short but effective 6-week grant systems and AI accelerator. It's going to be live, it's going to be online. And essentially what it's going to do is to help you with your alignment systems, because you can have all the great AI tools in the world, but without the strategy behind, okay, who are you targeting? How are you targeting them? When are you targeting them? And what are you saying to them? A lot of this is really challenging. And so I think this is probably one of a kind, or at least one that I know of, where we're teaching you the grant systems to actually go after who the funder is, but also the AI accelerator component of, hey, are you going to be able to leverage all these different tools in order to actually align all your mission, your vision to that particular thing? That's all I got.
Next, we've got Trisha and Steph from Bright and Early, who are going to ask the question of 2026, which is ethical AI possible?
Hi, folks. My name is Trisha Neogi. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm joined by my wonderful team member, Stephanie Bergman, also pronouns she and her. And we are HR consultants coming from Bright and Early. So Bright and Early is based out of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. And we are a modern HR consultancy that helps support organizations, nonprofits, tech companies, government, creative agencies across Canada and the US and globally on building the best places to work. So we're really dedicated around building progressive and supportive employee programs and policies. But as you can see in our talk, it's called Can AI Be Ethical? So not clickbait, I promise, but it is a very big question. And surprise, without a universal answer. So ethics really change over time and is based on location. But what is universally true is that AI is here, as we all know, and is widely used regardless to the answer of this question. And how nonprofits can adapt to the technology, or really any industry, is based on how it's going to utilize it in the landscape while staying true to its mission and values. So we can each have our own personal stances towards this, but through its mass adoption, AI is utilized all across government levels. It's making decisions for us, which means that your teams need to plan, have a policy and protections, data security specifically on AI use. So whether you're an individual contributor, whether you're a manager, a director, an owner of an organization, or at the board level, it's important that we create compliance and regulation. So as mentioned, Steph and I here are HR practitioners, so we take a lens of protection, compliance, and employee experience. We never thought AI would become a forefront in our roles. Ironically, what are HR people doing talking about AI? But we deal with it on a daily basis, from bad legal advice or HR advice from ChatGPT, or helping managers with drafting performance reviews, which is really helpful, to execs using it to replace headcount. So we're here to discuss what nonprofits need to adapt and build safe policies and practices. We do have a longer presentation on this coming in a few months, or in spring specifically, and we'll plan to highlight considerations for these ethical approaches to AI. We're going to be bringing resources for you to copy and adjust. So throw your questions and suggestions in the chat, and we'll take that for the next presentation. Over to you, Steph.
So what do we mean when we talk about AI? When we're talking with most clients, we find that they're focused in on the generative AI or LLMs, large language models. So things like ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, maybe Gemini, Midjourney, Sora. And those, because of that familiarity and the ease of access, might be the ones that more people are using, whether it's sanctioned by your organization or not. But these are the things that generate text, images, audio, video, code, etc. Some of the risks and considerations with these might be that these models are trained on scraped data, largely without any meaningful consent or any consent whatsoever. They often absorb reproduced cultural biases and might misrepresent those as well. They will hallucinate confidently. They will so confidently give you the wrong answer and even make up a source to back it up. And they have the ability to scale harm quite instantly through some of those hallucinations as well. They also use information without crediting sources, and there's can be a very high environmental cost, which differs a little bit by model. So what does it mean? Whether you have a policy in place, no policy whatsoever, stance, no stance, your team is likely using AI in some way, shape, or form in their jobs. And what think about is what are they using it for? So without a secure account, there's also that ethical consideration and risk around confidential data going into those training models and going into those systems. Further, maybe breaching governance terms, data security terms that you might have from your funders as well. So you should consider developing an AI protection statement and a policy that states exactly what you're doing with the data, how you are and are not leveraging AI, and guardrails for the team. While AI itself might not be ethical, you can create an ethical framework on how you're using it, aligned to your organization's understanding of ethics to help mitigate or protect against some of those risks. And then there's other AI tools that are involved in automation or decision-making. And these were mentioned in a few chats earlier, but these are often some of those tools that might start implementing AI into the existing, maybe without letting you know. And those are ones where you have the risk of mitigating, embedding bias at scale, as well as the question of what is the standard that this is based on? Who is it trying to portray as the standard? So you really do want to consider baking in those checkpoints and the accountability considerations around what you're automating, how are you automating things, and where are you offloading decisions that you should hold.
Thanks so much, folks, for your time and attention. Ethical use of AI is a moving target, but with intent, which we can leverage, it will make meaningful strides in the future impact of technology in society. So stay tuned for our larger workshop. I've dropped our link in the chat, brightandearly.ca. We also have a great workplace magazine that doesn't suck, and it's chock full of open source resources. So give us a follow. Thanks, everyone.
Up next, we've got Steve Anderson from NewMode, who's going to talk about the results of a recent research study they did around social media and what's working and what isn't these days.
So yeah, I'm from NewMode. What is NewMode? Just before I jump into the data that we found. So we're the leading advocacy and engagement platform for nonprofits and charities across North America. If you've seen a campaign asking you to send a letter to a local paper or click to call your member of parliament, pretty good chance that was hosted by NewMode. But given that work, we're really interested in what the future of political engagement is and this new kind of shifting social media messaging apps world that we're in, those of us who are doing civic engagement work. And so we just finished up a research project with a bunch of partners you can see here. And basically, we wanted to understand for ourselves, but also for the NGOs and charities that we work with every day, what's working and what isn't with the new social platforms. I won't go into how we did all the research, but multiple modalities, surveys, one-on-one interviews, proprietary data, etc. So what have we learned? I showed this because it makes me happy, but also there is a shift from X/Twitter over to platforms like Blue Sky. Not as much as many people think, but there definitely is a shift happening there, in particular for those supporters of NGOs and charities and progressive causes. But one of the survey questions we asked for campaigners for nonprofit and charity kind of marketers and campaigners, advocacy campaigners, was, what do you currently use? People, no surprise here, people are still using Facebook and Instagram a lot for engagement, but if you asked this question a few years ago, Blue Sky would definitely not be on par with X, and you probably wouldn't see you probably wouldn't see WhatsApp in there either. So some trends there. And in a minute, I'll show what does the data show that supporters of mission-driven organizations actually think is effective, which is there's some disparity there, which is interesting. What are the new platforms that campaigners believe could be helpful for increasing reach? WhatsApp is high, which I'll show is actually bang on. LinkedIn is scores high there, Blue Sky, and then it falls off pretty quick from there. But what platforms are actually effective for engaging supporters? So here we looked at multiple different platforms that help NGOs and charities engage on social media and had access to proprietary data from that. And so if you combine how often people will share on these platforms and which platforms get the most engagement, Blue Sky is a clear winner. And again, this is like specifically supporters of NGOs and charities and progressive causes. That's the audience we're focused on. If you went broader into the general public, you'd get different data, but this was the focus of the research. Facebook wins for shares. but not as much for engagement. Then it falls off from there. But if you look at just engagement / click rates, WhatsApp is a powerhouse. So if you can get people to WhatsApp, you'll see much more engagement there. And if you think about it, if I share something on my daycare, I'm going to get way more engagement than if I share on Facebook. Blue Sky is a follow-up there because they don't deprioritize linking. I'll scroll past this because I know we're running low on time. And I'll say the big picture is across all channels, one clear trend is emerging is peer-to-peer and organic is clear. It is king. Facebook remains a powerhouse. Blue Sky is rising in the progressive community, has strong click rates. WhatsApp, to a lesser extent, LinkedIn have strong engagement for those who use them, and Instagram and TikTok can be effective for exposure when used strategically. So that's obviously like a quick whistle-stop tour of this. If you want to go deeper into the data or you want to learn more about solutions, you can go to newmode.net/social media. And yeah, New Mode, where we definitely have, in a few days, we'll launch a social media advocacy tactic that is learning from all this data. Just go there and stay tuned. And feel free to email me as well, steve@newmode.net.
Sophie's going to give you a bit of a challenge, a provocation, which is that you should stop building audiences and start building belonging.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sophie. I'm a facilitator and a community strategist. I run a company called Clickworthy, and I work with both for-profit and nonprofit member-based organizations that are doing some pretty incredible work around the world. But a lot of them are struggling to keep members involved and excited about their mission. And that's some of the stuff that we tackle together. So as part of that work, I spend a lot of time with these organizations, and I've noticed that they're great at building programs that disseminate information, that educate people, that teach things, but they struggle a little bit when it comes to creating motivation and encouraging people to want to step up and take an active role in what is being built. And for a lot of you in this world, you know that participation is actually really important for a lot of the work that you're doing. It's how you get to further what you can do. It's how you get that work to move forward. And what we know as community builders is that participation really predicts retention in the long run. People who are engaged and are participating with organizations are 2 to 3 times more likely to stay a longer amount of time. So it becomes really important to get that participation revved up and sustained over a long amount of time. But the problem is that participation doesn't just happen. A lot of people don't just land in an organization and say, how do I get involved? There's a little bit of a lag there where they're wondering, where can I contribute? And the best thing you can do is to actually start thinking about, how do we help them feel like they belong here? Because that actually starts creating that sense of ownership that helps drive that participation over the long haul. As I was mentioning, when someone lands or becomes a member of an organization, that does not guarantee that they will participate in the long run. They're actually running a script in the back of their minds, whether they realize it or not. This is just how we're wired as humans. And it's really around, do I belong here? Is this actually a space for me? And at some point down the line, usually a little bit later, do I matter here? Does my presence make an actual difference? So if the answer to all 3 of those questions are yeses, you're much more likely to have them stick around and be an active, valuable member. If they start skewing towards no, though, no's are on the list, the more likely they are to trail off and you lose their attention, and it becomes a lot harder to re-engage them. So what I like to do when I'm working with these organizations is give them a really simple framework that at first glance sound really evident, but it's something that you can use every day, from everything from an email all the way up to a larger program, to help make sure that you're actually building in points of belonging and that you're increasing your chances of that member feeling good about staying a long time in your midst. So the framework goes like this. The first thing is, how can I help that person feel noticed? And that sometimes can be as simple as being the first person who sees them or greets them or makes them feel welcome in a room. So if it's in person, that could be as easy as saying, hey, I'm glad you're here, glad you can make it, and giving them some focused attention. In an online space, that could be making sure that you're greeting them as soon as they actually sign up with a warm message that doesn't feel like a canned version of a greeting. We don't want robots talking to people in this cases. I know a lot of people are using AI and there's great uses for it, but this is not the place where you want to do that. The second piece of it is, do they feel named personally? Are they receiving generic information, or are you reaching out with things that are personalized to them, at minimum with their name, at maximum with personal context of their own situation? So in a practical setting, that might look like taking a look at your campaigns, making sure that you're using their names as a greeting. In interactions, making sure that you're not just talking about them when they're in the room, but you're talking about them when they're not there. If there's an opportunity that comes up with another funder or a member or whatever it is, that you're actually speaking their name and that they feel like you are taking interest in who they are as a person. And then our final step is really around, do they feel needed around here? Now, obviously not everyone can jump in and do the same things. For some of you, you have very large memberships. So it's not about making sure that they have a huge role. It's what micro role can I give this person to feel like what they are doing with us really matters to the bigger picture. That could be as small as asking for their input in a survey and acknowledging that, if we layer the other two, acknowledging their contribution later and coming back to feedback that they've given. It's showing them that something they said at one point actually influenced what's moving forward. So as you can see, there's a lot of use cases here, and I could go through a lot more. But really, at the end of the day, it's about making sure that those members are not feeling like a passive person watching a movie and feeling like we're asking them to jump in and to really contribute to what we're doing here. My personal challenge as I'm leaving you today is really about using this simple framework in something this week. So pick a stakeholder group or an email that are going out and ask yourself, how am I asking people to show up in one of those three dimensions, or all three of them at best? If you hit all three, you get a gold star from me, really, at the end of the day. So that is all that I had for you today. I hope this framework can serve you well, even though it seems like a really simple step. When you do it with intention and when you turn this into a practice, it can really build up over time and help you keep that engagement going with your members. Thank you.